Yes, hello, welcome back to One's the Force of Stars podcast. My name is of course, welcome back to the show. I'm joined as usual by Dave and George for our Clone Wars breakdown. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello there.
Good evening, early evening for a change.
Early evening, yes.
All the same.
Yes.
It's like daylight. I've noticed the last few episodes, there's been daylight like in the windows, and it's like, wow. Who knows? On Monday we might even be going live in the morning, which we may have. And I say morning, I don't mean like 2 a.m, like when we do trailers. I mean, like, have we only ever done it once for Star Wars Rebels with the Maul Kenobi duel?
I think so. We got on really early, yeah.
Yeah, like I know we're jumping ahead 3 days later, but yeah, it's daytime. The world's the thing.
To be fair, the Maul versus Kenobi then was good. What's happening now is just on another level. This is, I mean, we're not gonna jump into the details straight away, as I always do. Give us brief overview. George, I'm gonna let you go first on this one. Just a little brief one.
Again, with three in a row, incredible episode. One of the best Clone Wars episodes in existence. Firmly in the top 4. The 3 of the top 4 being Siege of Mandalore so far, with the one as well being the Kenobi Maul from season 5. It's hard to say. I got what I expected. Didn't get my prediction right of it's going to start immediately where the last one finishes because of the hovering gunship. Enjoyed what they did. I did see the clip that was released online midweek, so I kind of expected it at the moment in which it happened, it being Order 66, which we'll actually discuss properly. But no, this just got me more excited for Monday, and it did a fantastic job of continuing the Siege of Mandalore.
Like you say, it's been now, these 3 episodes are, I can't even say there's been a dip in quality or a moment I've been bored. This has been at the highest level of Star Wars. I'm yet to say I'm blown away by what we've had over these last 3 episodes. The fact we're now 3/4 of the way into pretty much a movie. We've kind of discussed now that it's pretty much that. And to get Order 66, to get scenes from episode 3, like literally line for line, it's that scene is played out through someone else's eyes, was amazing. And it's left me at a point now where I kind of don't know how they're going to finish it, which is really good as well. It's not that I'm like, oh, I don't know how they're going to close it. I have no idea how they get to their end point in this story, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch that clip during the week, and I'm so glad I didn't. I know you put it in the chat in this case of it's there for if you want to, but I didn't want to. I wanted to leave this as fresh as possible, and I'm glad I did. Monday, alarms are firmly set to watch all 3 before I watch episode 4, but this episode, I was expecting to be left with the emotions I was left with, but I didn't expect it to go as well as it did. It's one of those things. This particular point, Order 66, is a very delicate subject in terms of Star Wars. Episode 3 is one of those things where you either love it or hate it in the world of Star Wars. We love it. And Order 66, we saw, of course, on Felucia, you had Elix Sakura, you had Kelly Mundi on Maigito, you had Plo Koon, I can't remember what planet he's on when he gets unfortunately killed. To have not only the meeting, but to have line for line said, to have later on the audio from episode 3 as well is just, I mean, goosebumps at that particular point. This episode for me, again, as you say, I don't know how they're going to end it on Monday, and it's in such a good place because this story we know well. We know what happens in episode 3, but to be left where we are and not know how they get to their endpoints. I mean, I have a theory, and I have a little bits and pieces we'll get to later on the episode, but I walked away from this episode, and all I put in the chat was I have no words. I was left completely speechless by this episode, and I absolutely loved it.
It's just, I mean, I think that's as well a roundup as you can for sort of just a brief sort of outlook on it. And it starts, I mean, it doesn't start exactly where we left the frame of last last episode, but you do get the gunships obviously now coming down from the capture of Maul and landing, and the presentation of, we've captured him. And the stuff on Mandalore was over fairly quickly. Obviously, that wasn't the crux of the story anymore. It was kind of get them off planet, get Maul into what we've kind of just discussed is very early, sort of a carbonite looking box. But as I said, I just came on before we came on and wondered if it was actually made from Beskar or something along that ilk, because it looked the same on the sides as the carbonite chamber, but very different, obviously, on the front of the design.
Well, I love the fact that she says it's designed to hold you force-wielding maniacs. I love that line from Bo-Katan.
Because I kind of clocked did not clock it, but I kind of looked away for a moment when I first watched it because I was technically working. But on the second viewing, I got that a lot better. I looked at the design of it. It could have been plain and boring box, but it was like Mandalorian, not art. But you know how like Palpatine's office has the weird wall cavings which you can buy for like $100 at Star Wars Land. It was like, oh, let's just decorate our prison box with some Mandalorian style decor. I loved it. It felt unique. It was just the Mandalore stuff. Kind of, we knew it had to be done quickly. It's just that Maul's already betrayed Mandalore people. Have a good death. The fight was already done last time, and it made sense to kind of let's just get on with it. As many people would say, main event time, Order 66.
Indeed. What I like though before Order 66 is the lack of talking. You have a lot of music, a lot of ominous music, a lot of shots of the clones go about their business, and you just know it's coming. You don't know when in the episode, but you just know it's coming, and it's ominous because everything's normal. In fact, it's kind of like the outside world at the moment. Everything's normal, but it's just not normal. It has that feeling to it.
It sounded like Blade Runner.
I was just about to kind of chime in with the same thing. You do get Williams through this, like in bits and pieces, but Kevin kind of absolutely smashed this. The ominous feel of sort of synthy and very, like you say, like a very 80s soundtrack of this build-up of constant tension throughout. You were never at ease while that music played, and it played pretty much throughout the whole episode. And it was like a character in itself, just the whole, you could feel what was coming, it was building, and I absolutely adored the soundtrack of this episode. I thought it was so well done.
I think it's one of the best Clone Wars sound. We haven't really discussed soundtracks much for Clone Wars. There's obviously been many great moments, but this episode to me felt the most not original. That's the wrong word, but it felt like Kevin Kline made it his own. Definitely this episode more so than any other. Even when you get the Order 66 moments, probably to me one of the most powerful musical scenes. Certainly in Clone Wars. Who knows what else we could be comparing it to in the future? I think that's the earliest I'll say now. But yeah, everything, it felt so uneasy. And it's annoying I saw the clip the other day, but it was so hard just not to click it to view it. And it was the, from the sort of slow, hand gestures to all the clones looking up from their den, smiling at her. You knew exactly what was going to happen if we're ready to jump into it.
Indeed.
I think that's the best place for us to go. I mean, you get that. I mean, the only thing I would say before that, we do get the episode 3 scene, which I think is just worthwhile talking
meeting,
just a little bit about. Yeah, the meeting.
That is definitely worth talking about, yeah.
Obviously, the thing I texted this to George, because obviously I messaged George separately because you hadn't seen it at this point, that literally it's Ahsoka missing Anakin by about 20 seconds. Again, Mace Windu sends him out of that meeting to go see Palpatine. They then say about the Jedi and he's behind it all, and you could sense the dark side, and then Ahsoka walks in. So again, he's missed that one opportunity to see Ahsoka before this all happened again. And I think it leads back to what I said in the previous episode, where again she was looked at like his last hope, and again missed that point of seeing him to maybe put a stop on something. But I just thought it was great they used the exact wording from episode 3. It was literally just that scene from another point of view.
Yep.
And it was the guy who played Kiadi-Mundi in episodes 1, 2, and 3. It was his voice as well in the episode, which I thought was a really nice move as well. I just thought it was an excellent put scene. And Mace Windu, what an absolute... Just in case my audio cut out there, it just makes you like, he was so arrogant and rude towards Ahsoka. It's like, oh god, you deserve to get thrown out the window shortly.
You just know that even in episode 3, it's kind of like he's got it coming with how he's of Anakin. Like, he's got it coming. This moment was like, we know you're going to die in approximately 20 minutes. And it's the way he says citizen. It's like, the only way that could have been better is if Sam Jackson had delivered the line.
That would have been
not
nice.
As a criticism, but as a sort of Sam Jackson, would just made that sound a lot nastier than it already was. But yeah, it's that again. You're so close, yet you're so far. And the bit I really enjoyed. So I've never been a massive fan of Yoda, particularly in Clone Wars. I had a lot of issues from the get-go with him in the series. I even didn't like the arc. It's always just been something with me and that character. I've just never clicked. I do like him, but I've just never really clicked with him like most people, which is fine. That was one of my favorite Yoda moments. Like, because he senses she knows something as well.
Yeah.
And it's this kind of like innocent old face who looks up, more to say, and he's waiting for something important, and he probably knows that she's hiding something.
Yeah.
And it's just that, you're not going to die in 20 minutes, but everyone else will.
It's such an important story beat that it's just so little.
If that's the final time we see Yoda in Clone Wars, then I think that's a great scene for Yoda to have had his final moment. Because obviously, I said for episode 1, that's the end of Kenobi. That's such a bad way to say goodbye. But actually, it wasn't the end of him. It feels like a goodbye to Yoda. I don't want it to be.
I think it is. I genuinely, because jumping forward, my bit for next week is I literally think the last we're going to hear, the end scene for the Clone Wars will be Obi-Wan's message. That's what I think it'll end on.
I think we'll get past. I mean, I will discuss it. I think we're going to get past that. But that's what I'm wondering. Are we going to get Yoda? Is Yoda going to know Ahsoka lives? Or, there's a lot. There's a lot that could be discussed. Yeah. So if we don't see him, then we've got a fantastic final scene for him. If we do, then I'm very intrigued.
But we've got that massive show of respect between Ahsoka and Rex, and how that, you're my friend, and that you've been a great friend. And then you get that the officer walking in just saying, we've got a new update meeting if you want to come check it out. Just to share this salute moment there. And then it is Rex going off to get the information. And the next big thing we see is this amazing hologram coming through, and we get the immortal words from Ian McDiarmid of execute Order 66.
But what's even more harrowing, you have Rex then say, yes, Lord Sidious, which that was just an emotional bolt down the spine. It was,
and
you
just
knew it was
that's
coming.
it. Yeah, and it's Ian McDiarmid has done the line. Now, I spoke to George about this earlier. It sounds like it's a brand new line reading as well of Execute 66. It's certainly not. So we were wondering if we are done with Palpatine as well. I think we might have more. If he's recorded that, there's no reason to think he would have only come in to record one line. So I think we might get a bit more Palpatine in the final.
You're saying that they got a bunch of people back to record one line for episode 9, so it's fine.
For a movie, I'd maybe, but no, it's interesting, and I love the moment. I love that Rex was just this, and the same as all the other clones, and it's almost like when he then came to see Ahsoka and the clones pointed their guns at her.
To be fair, though, we have skipped over one very important part before the Order, because Execute Order 66, the Anakin audio.
Sorry, actually, we can. That's a massive part that I was going to get to next. Obviously,
because you have. I must admit, I love the connection between Maul. The fact he can feel it in the dark side. So, I mean, the reason why I really want to talk about this part, partly, it is so important. They have the audio from episode 3, so you do have Ian McDiarmid, Sam Jackson, and Hayden Christensen. What you get at the very end is Hayden Christensen overlapping with Matt Lanter. The very last line is Matt Lanter overlapping it, and it's subtle, but again, jolt down.
It reminded me of Rebels. When you had the James Earl Jones
season 2
mixed with Matt
Lanter,
So I've got a colleague that's names like literally 2 letters off being Matt Lanter, so I keep pronouncing a colleague, which is why I've been struggling recently. But no, I loved that. I didn't think we are going to get that, because obviously last week the discussion was, we've had the Palpatine scream, and they synced up, and obviously that was a nice little throwaway. No, clearly not, because it's all going to happen now. We're going to hear it happen, which I also very much enjoyed. But the thing over this is that Ahsoka senses something happened to Anakin. Now, when you jump to Rebel Season 2, she doesn't know Anakin's Vader, but you certainly know before the announcement's done that she senses something. Obviously more last week. This week again, I think she always sensed something happened with Anakin, but she never got the confirmation until Rebels, which I like that they keep that gap going. They've been able to write around that.
Yeah,
because that is a very important part of this, and it does me think with a character like Ahsoka, The question is a lot of people have about many Star Wars Rebels people, or are they only in Rebels because they didn't finish Clone Wars? You can certainly argue it for one or two, but I feel that Ahsoka was always going to survive.
Yeah.
I also think it's a George Lucas thing as well. I don't think George Lucas, his fame said he wouldn't want to kill off a main character. I mean, I appreciate he kills off every other supporting actor, but I can even see Lucas or Filoni wanting to have killed Ahsoka in the Clone Wars. Rex would have been a different conversation.
Yeah.
Because the turn could have, obviously, this is ifs and buts, parallel worlds and all that. I don't think Rex would have originally survived had Rebels not have been a thing. And I think the moment in this episode when he turned was probably some of the best character development I've seen, because it goes back to the season 6 arc with Fives. You have the shaking, you have the helmet drop.
Good soldiers follow orders.
Yeah, and it was because someone's slime is going to say, "Oh, all the clones turn." It's like, well, obviously with that arc, he is the one that heard of something but never had confirmation. So everyone's going to sort of stutter it's him. And I'm happy I was worried that when he says I'll do it, he was just going to save us straight away. But the fact he then went for it, and you had this incredible musical sort of motif, you had this amazing claustrophobic action scene of her on the table, more clones come in.
What I like is when he puts the helmet on, he goes from being Rex back to being a faceless entity. He goes from his helmet is very individual and his armor is individual, but it goes from being a human to back to being a villain, if that makes sense. And it's small yet powerful. Interesting. Yes, we know that Filoni didn't write this finale per se, and that he's probably had a lot to influence over the writing, but he has directed it. And I think this is, I said this before last week, I think his magnum opus, and it's one of those things. This is one of those small directorial moments where it just works. It's just powerful.
It was an amazing scene when she's on that table and she's got clones either side of her. They're just absolutely blasting away. And I love that she's at the same time as deflecting this, cutting herself a hole in the ceiling to also escape with the blaster bolts and her lightsabers. It was such a powerful moment. That we've seen Order 66 from the view of the movie, and that it's pretty harrowing in itself the way they turn. But this was done so well. There was not a beat, not a second was wasted on the importance of it being Rex. Like you say, that shaking of the hands, the fact you tried to get the information about Fives out before it was fully taken over. So obviously it's not like the chip instantly clicked and he was like, right, I'm going to shoot her. It was slowly starting to go through him. He was ready to do the order as soon as it was given, but he saw Ahsoka and it was like he still had to try and get some information to her before, at the end of the day, he was still going to shoot her. At the end of that, he tried to.
The other part is, of course, when you have the clones with her face on,
trying to kill
her. It's
wasn't
poetry in motion. It really is.
She wasn't trying to kill them. That's a big thing I noticed on the second viewing. Yeah. She's not ever trying to kill them. Obviously, we'll get to somebody that does later on. And another guy that does, which is in the final few moments. But just that's one of my favourite sort of probably Clone Wars action scenes. It was so different, on the table.
Before we get to the other more serious parts later on, the one criticism I will have, but the wall also kind of makes it feel Clone Wars, is the droids. It's very. I liked it, but it makes it feel Clone Wars. But it's that when it's in that heightened state of emotion, I was more driven by it.
When it first came on, I was like, "Oh God, she knows these droids. Are these the droids from the arc that I skipped on my rewatch? The only episodes I didn't watch." Yeah. And I got really worried. I was there like, "Have they done? Do they need them?" And then I didn't mind them. It was very Clone Warsy.
That's why for me, when I look back on reflect, is a case of it makes it feel more Clone Wars.
And in the next 10 minutes, they did become important because she actually does need them. So I can let that slip because she's not going to be able to access them files without a droid.
No, so again, that's why for me it justified. It just took me out of it for just a brief second because I was so emotionally invested.
Yeah, it was like laughing droids making me noise. Like, oh no. I was expecting that little frog general to come out or something.
That would have been amazing. But no, I mean, I quite like the droid side of it. I love that there was the next version of Chopper as well, sort of like the early version of Chopper, which was nice to get that again, voiced by Dave Filoni. I believe his name's Cheap in the actual titles.
Yes, yeah.
So yeah, Dave Filoni voiced that one as well, same as he did with Chopper,
which
I thought it was
also
a really
has
nice
a
moment.
Chopper-like essence to him
Yes,
with the actual
same size body,
body
same
and the rest
yes,
of it,
the
yeah.
arms as well. But then I also love that they use them to capture Rex as well. That the lockdown, and then I love the moment when the hologram of Ahsoka showed up and he pointed at the droid saying, "Where is she?" And she's like, "I'm here." And then they electrocuted him. I thought it was a really nice moment as well. Really well played out.
Because you knew he was going to kill us still. That's what I liked. It was so easy.
Yeah.
Oh, he just had this hologram. He's all good again. And it's like, nope, where is she? Gun to the head of the droid. That's pretty dark for Star Wars standards. Yeah, and the electric shock. And then even the corridor thing, I liked seeing all that sort of stuff. And obviously, before we get to the final scenes with Ahsoka, I think we should do some discussion on certain more. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ahsoka says more, which is we kind of knew that was going to happen. But again, she didn't pander to him. Maul probably thinks, haha, team up. And she's like, no, like, you're my distraction. Adios.
You're my cabin fodder. Go.
Yeah. I'm not even going to give you a lightsaber. And I was kind of relieved. I was like, the idea of Maul holding a blue lightsaber is not something I ever want to have seen in my life.
There is a reason why I knew that wasn't going to be the case. If you read the Ahsoka book, you'll find out why.
But I mean, I loved the scene where she let him go as well, and she was just like, "No, you are good at causing chaos. Go off and do that."
Yeah.
I don't want any part of this. Our line was I'm not rooting for you. It's not like, oh, I don't want you to survive this. Go and cause some trouble while I go and try and save my friend. And I just loved that interaction from last week where she was ready to join him until he told her everything about Anakin and lost her at that point where he thought he was just going to be able to go, yeah. I loved when he laughed as well when he figured out what the plan was, when he heard the clones had turned and he just laughed about what the plan. It was just, he turned their army against them. Sam were wonderful again in this episode. Maul was just perfect. I loved that moment. And then obviously went off and we got what was probably in as close as we're going to get to a Darth Vader Rogue One corridor scene as we're ever going to get in a Disney Plus.
So before I watched the episode, someone posted up on Facebook a who did it better corridor scene, Vader or Maul. I didn't see any images, but I was like, okay, we'll see what happens. And then that corridor scene. Now the Vader corridor scene is different because it's against a film, and he went to the level we didn't expect. But same time with Maul went to a far darker place. I mean, to jump into it, the moment he throws the panel and it cuts someone basically in half and slices people's heads off, it's just okay. This is different.
I don't know. I think that was just Maul being Maul. Like he's not gonna. He's probably just annoyed he hasn't got a weapon because he knows he's gonna kill them all. And the thing I love most, it's the small things that get me. Before he turns the corner, it's the fact that every single clone trooper is shooting at the corner. There's no let's wait until he comes around. It's let's quickly carry on shooting until just in case he steps in front of a bullet. And just that moment, there is Vader. It's
panic.
For them, it's panic. For him, it's just like breakfast, isn't it? Like he was
absolutely.
Ready. And the beheading thing was something I didn't expect to get in Clone Wars. We've had a lot of violent things. I think the darkest thing Clone Wars ever did was Asajj Ventress Force Impale Kiss, which Cartoon Network did ban, I believe, and it was on the
they cut it.
And here we are, 10 years later, with beheading, slice, sound effects of chest being ripped apart as well, hand through a door, and this was all in the space of like 20 seconds.
Yeah,
it's like the Mandalorian. That very first episode, we get the guy that gets cut in half. But in Clone Wars, where you don't expect necessarily to hear or see it, it's just always heavily implied. This was much more of a, nope, here you go. Just deal with it.
It was glorious.
It was working. We know the story arc's not done. We know that he's going to have I think he's going to have a big role in the next episode. Or a small role with a big moment. We don't know.
Yeah.
But then I guess that's that. Is that the last time we see Maul for this episode?
He goes off. He is the trooper arm after he has it ripped off by the door, and he hears obviously on the radio that they're trying to force him to go a certain way. But I just thought it was an excellent scene. It showed how much power he's still got and how his power over the Force, especially, and those troopers were just there was no match. No matter if he had a lightsaber or not, he was going to get through all those troopers. There was going to be no issue for him. It showed almost the weakness of the clones that were there against someone who's as heavily into the Force as he is. I think a lot of the Jedi that get taken down from behind, are not expecting this. Maul seems to be fully aware now. Once he knows the army's turned, of what he needs to do, and they've just got no comeback.
Was the Jedi versus the dark side way is what it really is.
And then we move on to our finale, really the final set play of the episode.
I mean, this is a tricky one. Again, so this episode from start to finish again had me, and I was just actually before going out. It's a 23-minute episode, but it feels a lot longer. By the time you get to the finale, by the time you get to Rex being saved, by the time you get to that moment where he's in the machine, the clones are coming through the door, and he ends up being the one that rocks up and blasts two of them to save it. It's one of those moments you know they're going to survive, but it almost feels like you feel they're in peril. It's a very good way of doing it.
It's a marvelous scene. I can't pick any faults with it. Again, there's nothing I can pick in this episode that I thought this is a terrible moment. So well done. But I loved when they couldn't find the chip, and then we got the use of the Rogue One line of "One's with the Force is with me," and my word, that was a moment that I literally, my jaw fell out when she said it. It was a lovely callback to Rogue One, and it was a great moment for how she found the chip. I felt the same when you heard that, George, as well.
I didn't ever expect we'd get them to say it because it's in Rogue One. A, it's a spin-off, and B, it's said not by a Jedi, but obviously someone believes in the Force, and it was just this kind of like everything coming full circle moment, and I really liked it. I knew, obviously we knew we were going to get the chip out. Obviously we all knew that, but there was still so much tension, and it got to the moment where she's about to die. They shoot the lightsaber or her hand.
Yeah, she shoots the lightsabers out of her hand, and you can actually feel the fear of her. She's telling the droid to close that door. She is so
leaning back, and she's
about to die. Yeah,
and then you just get Rex take out. He shoots all three. And this is a commander killing his brothers as well. This is probably a bigger thing for him than she wouldn't kill them.
No.
And yet here he is doing it, and to me that's
because he's woken up and realized the entire Grand Army of the Republic, everything he's ever known, is turned against the Jedi, and it's something he can't comprehend. It's when it happened with Fives, he could not comprehend what was going on with Fives. He couldn't understand his point of view. He's like, how could you turn against them? But what made you do it? And of course, he couldn't find out the full story until it was too late. And then of course, once he did get out, the evidence was squashed as quickly as possible by the Kaminoans and by Chancellor Palpatine, and to keep it away from the Council and all this. He kept it away for a good reason, because, of course, by the time it's Order 66, it's too late for anyone to know anything or do anything about it. And when he wakes up, he knows what's happened. At that point, he's then been in Fives' shoes, and he wakes up and knows it's too late. If he doesn't kill them, they will kill Ahsoka. And he now feels on the outside, and it's a very different place for him to be in. And it's all in the space of a few seconds. It's powerful. It's one of those things, I can't pick a fault with it either.
And it's the way after he says, he doesn't say, "Hey kid," no, that's Han Solo. Does he say kid? I can't remember.
Does say kid, yeah.
That's a kid, yeah.
It's and that was this very like human moment of you forget that she was, when they discussed on the bridge earlier, she was a Padawan when they met, and technically she's only 3 years older, although force-wise and everything else is about 10, which is a great thing still. It felt very human, very right to the character and for their bond, and I don't really think we see it in Rebels as much as they'd like us to, but it does make me think, speculation-wise, a tiny bit more, maybe, just maybe, Mandalorian Season 2, there may be a Tamura Morrison to go with an Ahsoka Tano. I don't think there will be, but if there is...
But it could well be, and it could also be very possibly a Katie Sackhoff to go along with it as well.
Yeah, I think Bo-Katan's going to have a role in it. I think Katie Sackhoff shouldn't officially say she was in it, but she did a silly tweet which got deleted.
It did, yes, I recall that, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember what the tweet was. It didn't ever say I'm in it, but it was too much of a hint that she might be in it.
Yeah.
But no, and then we get our not even cliffhanger. We literally have the door is about to open.
Yep.
I think we're going to get more to come in and save them if we're predicting not next week, Monday's episode.
Yeah. Well, it's still next week. This is Friday, so you are right in one aspect. But yes, in 3 days' time, we find out how the Clone Wars finally ends. The one thing we're going to sit here, and of course, we will discuss the episode. We'll then discuss the arc. We'll then discuss Clone Wars as a whole. We'll discuss the final end of the show. And I have to say, so far, this has really been the finale the show deserved and more. I mean, I love Rebels without a fault. It is one of the best shows I've seen in a long time. Love the writing. But this is putting the end of Rebels to shame by a long way. This finale, for me, I said this before we came on air, and I'll say this when this is all said and done. At the moment, and it's all together, this could well be the greatest Star Wars film we've had. It's big money to say, it's a big statement, but for me, that is just how well this has been written, directed, the sound, the pacing. I mean, we sit here as fans, we don't criticize in a way, we talk about our honest opinions, we give our thoughts, and my honest opinion, honest thought in these 3 episodes so far is this is the greatest thing I've seen in years from Star Wars, and give me this. I mean, I love episode 9, and I loved it when we first saw it, and it took you guys a couple of viewings to change your opinions on certain parts, but episode 9 has flaws. This doesn't so far. These 3 parts just do not.
Yeah, I'm gonna go on a whim, and it's hard to discuss 4 episodes of an animated series versus a $200 million live action production. This 4 episodes is better than anything Clone Wars has ever done, better than anything Rebels has ever done. Resistance, I'm sorry, doesn't deserve to enter the conversation. I'm willing to start comparing this to live action films. Am I willing to already leapfrog it past Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones? Yes.
Oh God, yeah.
Am I willing to compare it to episode 3? Yes. You need both. It's hard to compare it, say it's better because it needs it. So it's you can't really compare it to 3.
Piece, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm kind of sat there like, look at the Disney 5 years. On Monday, could I turn around and say this is the best Star Wars Disney film? Maybe. I'm just going to leave it at maybe at the moment because it's certainly to me better than one of them. 2 of them, sorry, including Solo. Sorry, I do like Solo. I did rewatch it. Right now, to me, this is on a level with Last Jedi, Force Awakens, and Rogue One. And I say on a level, I mean it's in the conversation more so than on a level. I think on Monday I'll have a fairer example, but there's this. I disagree with fan petitions and stuff, but there is one for someone put like Disney release the Siege of Mandalore in cinemas in December.
We would all pay. I would go.
If they were to IMAX it, I think I'd go for a normal cinema.
I'd go. I want to see this on the big screen.
I imagine that they'll do this every celebration for the next few celebrate. Like no one ever goes, oh, we're all watching Star Wars 4, and like no one goes. That kind of. I can imagine this being one of those that once on one of the days at celebration they'll start to stream this, and I think this will have a very big following. One thing I haven't mentioned, which someone tweeted, but I've forgotten who tweeted it. When Ahsoka's getting the passwords, she says the codes 08. Sorry, she says 8108. Right?
Yeah.
That is the premiere of the Clone Wars movie. Was at one of them sort of theaters in like somewhere in LA, and it was the 1st of August 2008.
Yeah.
And that sounds like it can't be a coincidence. Like, I'm sorry, but it is. There's 9,999 combinations. It's definitely not a coincidence.
Oh, nothing's ever. It's like THX1138. That's not a coincidence anywhere. That's again with what is it in Pixar? It's
every single film has it.
Yeah, it's that kind of. It's there for a reason. This is not a coincidence. The fact it's my Discord number actually as well. It's kind of funny. It's like, oh, that's kind of a nice little. Forgot that is a coincidence, but no, 8108 is just it's a little nod, but again, so subtle but powerful. And overall, as I said, I absolutely love this, and Monday cannot come fast enough.
You're absolutely right. It's for me out now. It is the best of Clone Wars. I know how much I love other parts that you guys don't, but this for me is the best Clone Wars I have ever seen. This is, you're right, the lost episodes weren't the way for this to be finished. This is perfection so far. If they knock this out the park with the final episode of the 4, which I can't see them messing up, these 3 episodes have been, to me, in my opinion, absolute perfection. If they nail it with the 4th episode in the run, you know what, I can't do anything but doff my hat and applaud as to how good this has been.
Yeah, I mean, the thing for me is, okay, you have Bad Batch and you had Ahsoka's Walkabout. Those were written 10 years ago. This feels like it's been 10 years in the waiting. This feels like it's been honed for 10 years in writing. That's the difference.
They always said they knew the Siege of Mandalore was the final Clone Wars arc, but they hadn't written it. And I think the original rumor was there was 48 more episodes planned. Is that what they always said?
64, something like that. It was something ridiculous, yeah.
And obviously a lot of them were converted to books, to comics and stuff. So if you wanted to look into it, you can probably guarantee, I want to say 24 to 32 episodes based on what's already in the public eye.
Yeah.
But they always said Siege of Mandalore is going to... So I think Filoni knew how this was going to end. I think Lucas obviously would have told him. I think they would have come up with it together, which is probably why they allowed Mandalore to grow and grow across the seasons.
Mm.
And I haven't seen an interview of Dave Filoni yet on Star Wars YouTube. I think one of the Lucasfilm staff came out and said that it was originally just going to be for the Lucasfilm staff.
Yeah.
And then George Lucas said that I want it out, let basically put it on YouTube. So I'm very excited to watch that on Monday. I know it's not going to spoilers in, but I like saving.
Yeah, I mean, literally, you could. It's not about the arcs, the final arcs. It's just them talking about making Clone Wars. It's a lovely little video. It's not about. It doesn't ruin anything. It's literally not about this arc or anything like that, or it coming back. It's just George Lucas and Dave Filoni talking about making Clone Wars, which is superb.
The other thing I want to say is, the other thing I want to say is, I'm not a fan of fan edits. There are certain pieces I just prefer to be left as is. If someone doesn't do a cut of this episode 3, I will be disappointed because I feel this needs it. Yeah,
it's gonna happen. Someone's probably already got the first 3 episodes ready. Like there's probably someone downloading them straight away and then just cutting them straight in. One thing I want to kind of finish on for this episode of you guys is what's two predictions, right? 1, what do you want the final shot of Clone Wars to be? And number 2, what do you want to happen in the final episode? But is there something, a moment you would love to happen, a cameo or anything, if that makes sense?
I want to see the Emperor, and I would love to see him with Vader. I'd love to see that one moment. And sounds awful. I'd kind of love Ahsoka to see the devastation left by Anakin at 2 moments. I do think our final shot will be Ahsoka. That's my feeling about it. Or either Ahsoka or the Emperor. One of the two will be the last finishing shot. I don't mind who it's of. I think we'll say a goodbye to Rex. Get a really nice send off in the Clone Wars, and maybe send on his way. Say he's going to leave off to that planet, whatever he's going to do, build that walker that he likes. But I just think, I'd love to see the Emperor. I'd love to see him with Vader to kind of round that story out and see a little bit, maybe on the unfinished. Well, when they're looking out at the Death Star on Episode 3, something along that line on that ship, even if it's before that scene, that would be lovely. But definitely, I'd love to see them in my final episode.
I'm shaking my head purely because you've taken that out of my... As I'm sitting there thinking, I want the final shot to be Vader crossing his arms, that Emperor Vader moment. So you get the Emperor as well. Vader crossing his arms, and then you cross over to Ahsoka. I'm not going to say the exact shot I want to see because it's a spoiler for the book. And I really don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't read it. And it's one of the things I will be covering on Star Wars at some point is the Ahsoka book. There are a couple of things I want to see. I also want to see Maul, and I want to see Rex, because they all have to go their separate ways. And I think the last 10 minutes of the episode, I think, will be almost silent. I don't think we get any dialogue. I think it's just going to be people going their ways. Rex will help Ahsoka escape, and I think then they'll part. It's one of those things. It's very hard, but I do want it to be that very last shot will be the Emperor, Vader crosses arms, cut to Ahsoka, the back of Ahsoka, done. And if that's the end shot, then I'll be happy with that. But I do think, I must admit, I do think the last few minutes will be narrated by Obi-Wan. It'll be that speech that our time has, come to an end now. You can't go back to the temple. We have to do this. That last speech, I want to be the last few minutes of the episode.
I would love that. I think we're going to get that at some point. I think maybe sort of 2/3 into it. I would love the fight. I'm the same as Dave. I want, because the clone. This doesn't sound nasty. Tell me if it does. Obviously, Ahsoka's the main character. Certainly across this season, you can argue, but not across Clone Wars. It's Anakin, kind of Obi-Wan and Ahsoka as like a trio. Because the Clone Wars is bigger than Ahsoka. It's not a criticism at all. This is the biggest war in Star Wars. Forget your Galactic Civil War, that nonsense. Nothing ever came close to Clone Wars. Because Palpatine's played it from day one till day whatever, it's got to me, like, if it ends on him, that's just the perfect way for it to end. Even if it's him smiling, laughing, or didn't he like make the Jedi Temple his home or something bizarre? Which is, don't know if we'd get that, but I think I'd love the ending to be something Palpatine. I don't think we'll get this, but I'd love to see Ahsoka at the ruins of the Jedi Temple. I don't think we'll get it.
Yeah.
But I could just.
I don't think we will. I genuinely don't think we will.
Be awesome though.
It would be awesome. I don't think that'll happen. However, no, not nasty at all.
We could get a Padme mention because she's close to Padme.
No, I think the scene where she was brought in pregnant was literally brought in so they get Catherine Taylor back. So I don't think we'll see Padme again.
Yeah, I don't think we will.
But it's just, I mean, look, the best thing about this is we don't have to wait a week. We're going to find out in 3 days' time how this finishes, and by word will we be here to talk about it.
Oh, yes. I have a feeling we're going to be on it for a good hour. We've done this for already 45 minutes, and we're trying not to do too much, obviously, but at the same time, there's so much to say. And the Clone Wars in general, I think we're going to have to do a breakdown video of the entire Clone Wars. I think we are going to have to finally sit down and do our long discussed Clone Wars overview episode. There's an awful lot to say. There's an awful lot that'll happen in 3 days' time, but I also don't want that day to come, because once it's ended, it's ended. And it's that horrible feeling. You know it's coming. You know it's going to be the end. But
you can always not watch it and watch the Mandalorian behind the scenes.
No, I will watch that, but no.
Didn't watch it. Didn't bother. No, watch that instead.
Yeah, no. You know what I mean, though. It's that feeling of you just don't want it to end, but it has to come. And at least now we have the ending it always deserved.
As that clone trooper always says to Bail Organa, one of my favourite quotes in Star Wars, I think it's time for you to leave, sir. And if he nods farewell, he goes into his ship, and so it is.
Yep.
So never wanted one of the greatest lines ever. It's so it's so random.
It's little, but it's powerful. And yeah. And so it is.
Perfect way, I think, to close.
Yeah, definitely.
Indeed. So yes, there are no more closing thoughts on this particular one. As per usual, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at One's the Force of Stars Podcast, at the Force Podcast. As per usual, the video available on our Facebook and YouTube pages later on, as well as the audio on our Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, and iTunes. So until next time, we've been One's the Force. May the Force be with you. Good night.